Everyone, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. I'm excited today because I love supporting charities. I love supporting community options for us to go into our community and make a difference. And imagine taking our love for podcasting and our love for supporting great charities and people who do great things in our world, combining the two into one, and you have Podcasthon. I'm excited because Jeremie's on the podcast with us today, joining me from Montreal, Quebec, fellow Canadian, and we're here to talk about an amazing thing that's happening this year, and you need to be a part of it as a podcaster. So we're going to kind of do an overview today in our conversation about how to get this all set up and how you can be a part of this and why you should be a part of this. And I'm doing it, and I'm encouraging everyone listening to do this as well, to support this amazing initiative. And Jeremie's on the podcast to talk about it as well. Jeremie, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm really pleased to be there.
We have listeners, Jeremie, in Quebec, in Montreal, in France, who listen to this podcast. So can you please do something that I can't do, obviously, as well as you can? Can you please welcome our French-speaking listeners as well? I want to make them feel welcome.
Sure. Bonjour tout le monde, je suis ravi de vous parler en français pour ces quelques phrases et je vous encourage à vous inscrire également au Podcasthon puisque c'est une version anglophone mais aussi francophone. Donc, vous aurez toutes les informations sur le podcasthon.org dans les deux langues. Thanks, Dave.
Amazing. Nice to have you here, Jeremie. Let's talk about this amazing website that I'm looking at. Can we please talk about what's coming up in March of 2025? Can we talk about this great initiative that you're pulling together for podcasters and the community?
Yeah, thanks for giving me this opportunity because that will be the first time, the first edition in English of this non-profit initiative called Podcasthon. And the idea there is quite simple yet powerful, I guess, is to convince as many podcasters as we can, regardless of their audience, regardless of their language, to dedicate one episode of their show to a charity of their choice and to release those episodes simultaneously in a coordinated effort. And that would be mid-March 2025 from the 15th to 21st to create a mass effect, to create a ripple effect of inspiring audio content. So that's really up to podcasters to decide which charity they want to highlight and which format they want to choose. But that will be a great opportunity to raise awareness.
What was the original idea for this? You've done this before. Where did this idea come from?
Well, so you may have recognized my French accent. I was born and raised in France, even though I'm now living in Montreal in Canada. But we started this initiative in France, then French-speaking countries. Somehow we fine-tuned the formula. And I'm a heavy listener of podcasts. I love this medium. And I'm saying I, but we are a team, a small team of volunteers. And somehow during a brainstorming, we were just thinking about what would a non-profit initiative could look like in the podcasting world. And somehow we came up with this idea, this concept that I just presented, to let the talent of podcasters, who are all, and you are also a great storytellers, that's on the one hand, to offer the audience to charities, because charities, whatever their size and their causes and wherever they are in the world, they have a common point. And this common point is they need to enlarge their circle of supporters to connect with a larger audience. And if you think about that, podcasting is probably the best medium for that. To convey emotions, to take time to go into a nuanced speech and a deeper conversation to truly understand what is at stake behind the mission of those charities. So it's not social media. I do love social media, but it's not a 30-second audio or video promotion that you would do and that would be skipped by other video. In podcasts, you have time, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, half an hour or more, to explain what you do and to explain why you need those listeners to get involved somehow. That would be becoming donators, maybe, or volunteers, or just sharing the content from now on because they appreciated what they listen to.
Why is the charitable aspect of this initiative so important to you?
To me personally, that would be complicated to answer this question in a few sentences, but let's say that I used to be an entrepreneur in the digital world. I was in France at the time. I was fortunate enough to sell 2 companies. And that's also maybe midlife crisis. I'm 49 maybe in next few weeks. I couldn't imagine myself creating a third company. What was the point for that? And I was more eager to use my energy and what I could learn in my so-called skills in terms of entrepreneurship to put this energy into a charitable organization. And I couldn't figure out which charity and which causes I wanted to support because there are so many causes. I was completely it was completely non-possible for me to decide. So with my partner and friend Yves Bernat, we decided that we maybe could come up with a concept that would help charities to have more awareness on them. And we were also convinced that podcasting is a great medium for that, as I said. So yeah, I mean, all of those reasons all together, and you mix it up, and probably that's the reason is behind.
And then here we are. I love this. Okay, so let's do a brief overview of the process of being a part of this amazing initiative. You're asking for podcasters to sign up and be part of this. It's free for podcasters to be part of this. It doesn't cost any money to be a part of this. Can you kind of give us just a high view of what it takes to be a part of this and how we can participate as a podcaster?
Sure. And I would try to make it very clear, but I can reassure everyone that's very simple. So assuming you're a podcaster, you run a podcast, and you want to participate, first step would be to register on a website. So that there's a link on www.podcasthon.org. It's like marathon or telethon. And that it takes probably 90 seconds, no more, to register. It's very easy. We would ask you to fill a form with the name of your podcast, your own name, your email, the cover of your podcast, and maybe your social networks URLs, so that we can display your cover and the name of your podcast on a website. So that's the first step. But from there, we would be able to send you some guidelines and support to help you craft your episode. So step 2 would be for you to decide which charity you want to promote. Because once again, that's really up to the podcaster to decide. So it could be a very large NGO, it could be a very local charity you care about. Personally, I don't care. That's really this idea of you to decide which charity you want to support. So 2 cases, 2 options. Either you have one in mind, that's fine, that's perfect. You can contact them directly, or you're a bit stuck, you don't have any contact in this ecosystem. And we have a full list of charities who registered for free to hopefully being invited at the mic. So you just have to pick up one by writing a few keywords, and then hopefully you will fine-tune the list and find one that will suit you, that would meet your criteria, and you will have the details to contact them. So that's step 2. You register, and now you know which charity you want to promote. Step 3 is you record your episode the way you're used to, the way with your talent, your usual habits. So it could be by interviewing this charity, a representative of the charity. It could be a solo talk, if that's your format. It could be an audio report. Really, the format is completely up to you. The length of the episode is completely up to you. So you would record this episode and you keep it on the fridge. You keep it to release it mid-March, because you have to imagine, I don't know if I mentioned it, but there will be more than 1,500 podcasters worldwide that would participate. We already reached 1,300, and so probably 200 or more will join from 50 different countries.
Wow.
Mostly from USA, then France and UK and Canada and Australia and many other countries. So that's really an international initiative. And the reason why I'm saying that is that the strength of this concept is that everyone will release this episode during the same span of 7 days, mid-March. So just record your episode, keep it, and release it. Put it in your editorial calendar for mid-March, any day from the 15th to the 21st. And the last point is to promote your episode the way you would do usually on social networks, but ideally on tagging us, so that we can comment on it, like it, share it, and hopefully try to amplify the visibility of this episode. So that's basically what it takes. Maybe one thing that I can add is that we, as organizers, we're trying to add some consistency among all those episodes. So we would encourage you to introduce some key phrases in your recordings, such as this is Podcasthon week, and I'm pleased to invite or to talk about these charities, as that could be an introduction. Or as a conclusion, you could say something like, if you like this episode, I strongly encourage you to visit www.podcasthon.org and discover hundreds of other charities through the talent of as many podcasters. Just pick up the one that you would like, something like that, And we are also here to secure some visibility partners with great organizations like ACAT, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many others that will amplify the visibility of the whole movement, the whole initiative. And so hopefully that will lead us to bring more listeners, curious listeners, to more podcasters, and behind the podcast, more charities that will be that will have a chance to connect with a large number of people. So that's what we do as organizers.
I love it. So we're tagging Podcasthon when we do our show notes or our episode titles. We're going to put something in there to tag it back to you guys as well. That's one thing we can do. But we're not submitting our episode to you and you're distributing it. We're doing it the normal way we normally do, but we're just making sure that we tag you in the process. That's correct.
Exactly. And ideally, because you, as a registered participant, you have a podcaster space, ideally, we would encourage you to copy and paste the URL of your episodes. It could be Apple Podcast episode or URL, or Spotify, whichever you like, YouTube, and you would copy it on into your podcaster space so that we have the information that will be easier for us, to display it on the website and make it available for any listeners. But all those little things are really specific in the guidelines that we send, and we made sure that it's really a very straightforward document. So it takes 2, 3, 4 minutes maximum to go through it. And normally, with the experience of the first 2 editions that we had with the French-speaking podcasters, we managed to make it simple, keep it simple, so that you won't lose time. Because we are aware that you podcasters, you have a lot of other things to do, and really you don't want to abuse of your time So we're trying to make it short and simple.
One thing you mentioned near the beginning was your great team of volunteers. I would love to kind of throw the light on them and just celebrate them today in our conversation as well. Tell us about your group. Tell us about your team and the people that support you and this amazing initiative happening in March. Tell us about them.
Thanks a lot. And I'm happy to say that and to emphasize the fact that we are all volunteering our time. So no one is being paid for that. So it all started with Yves and I. We had the idea, but among us, among the team, there is Sophie, there is Celia, there is a lot of other people that are committed to give a few hours from time to time, from maybe 2 hours a day, 2 hours a week, or something like that. So they are helping with very specific tasks, such as identifying podcasters and try to get some emails, to contact them. Also to thank podcasters because a lot of emails to be sent to podcasters to thank them for registering and giving feedback and answering any queries they might have, any question they might have. So probably a dozen of people, not full time for sure, but they would be pleased to do that in mainly 2 languages, French and English for the moment.
So I know a lot of podcasters love to do episode art, specifically for a special episode or a series of episodes, and they want to do something different than their normal artwork that would go out to the world through social media or something. Is there any way for us to be able to use any of the assets from Podcasthon that we could use as your logo and put it on our artwork and say, this is a special episode, just want to call this out? Yeah,
exactly. That would be great. I mean, we don't want to force anyone to do that because everyone has his own habits, but for sure we could see that during the last 2 editions, some podcasters use our logo to craft a specific cover for the Podcasthon week. Some use the Podcasthon into brackets, to be specific about the fact that it's a bonus episode or it's a specific episode during this particular week. So it's completely free. We would encourage them to do that. is better for the visibility of the initiative. But once again, we don't want to force anyone, so it's not compulsory at all. We know some other podcasters might, want to keep their usual habits, and that's perfectly fine. So everything will be fine for us.
So this is a lot of work from a great group of people, Jeremy, to do all this for a 1 week period in March. Do you see this growing in the future to be more than a single week once a year? Are you seeing this becoming a bigger and bigger thing for you and your team and for us as podcasters to be a part of?
Well, that would be great. It all started with 300 podcasters in 2023. And so that would be probably 5 times that or maybe more 2 years later. So that's a significant growth. But I'm more proud of the fact that we are now reaching people from different countries, including New Zealand. Like, I'm saying New Zealand because it seems to be very far away from where I am, but also Saudi Arabia, Trinidad and Tobago, in Asia, and everywhere. So that's really nice. For sure, we might be frustrated to have just one podcaster participating from New Zealand because we didn't put any effort into this targeting this region because we are not numerous enough. But in the future, that would be great to have 50 countries, but maybe with more podcasters coming from all those countries. And also, we'll make sure that we'll open it to Spanish English podcasters, German-speaking podcasters, any other language, Italian, and you name it. I mean, many languages in the world. That would be open to any kind of languages. The limitation so far is due to the fact that we are small teams, so it takes a lot of communication to communicate in their own language with all those people, to not only translate the website, but also the backend behind and the automatic emails that are sent and any kind of other communication. So it takes time to grow, but hopefully, in the future, that would become a yearly event for podcasters and listeners alike. That would be great. And also my dream is to not just to be to have this yearly event once a year, but that would be kind of community between podcasters on the one hand, charities on the other hand. And if we could help podcasters to invite charities more often during the year, even though it's not Podcasthon's week officially, that would be great. So I love this idea of trying to raise awareness on the maximum number of charities. It doesn't change the world, but we know that they all need this awareness. And it's not because you don't donate money right now that it doesn't have a value. I mean, I'm deeply convinced that first of all, you need to be connected, then to be aware of what they do. And in the future, you're planting seed for the future. They might be tempted to, if they have a chance to donate something or to be volunteer or, to just talk positively about a charity is a very good first way of thinking, of doing things. Sorry.
And I think some of these charities would love to get the promotion to be talked about,
Sure.
to have their website shared. So I would also include in my show notes a link for the charity that I'm talking about on my show, a link to Podcasthon as well. And I make sure that I have all those links in the show notes as well as a way to, again, focus on that charity. You did mention possibly having somebody on your show from the charity that you've chosen. Yep. That's a great idea because then you can actually talk in more detail about what they do and who they serve. If they have a commercial or a little promo that they use to promote their charity, maybe you can include that in your podcast as well with their permission. But any of those things to shine a light on those amazing charities, those are also great tools to add to this as well.
And this is a very cost-effective way of promoting a charity. I mean, for them, it's completely free. And once again, think about how often do those charities have the opportunity to talk during, let's say, half an hour or 1 hour and explain what they do during a conversation. I mean, I can't prove it, but I'm convinced that if any listener would listen to, let's say, half an hour of conversation with a talented podcaster on the one hand and an interesting, inspiring charity on the other hand, there is something, it remains something. You memorize a message and, something will happen that you would be more keen to help this charity the way you can. So that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I noticed too when I went to sign up myself, The charity that I had wanted to sponsor or focus on wasn't actually listed yet, but there was an option to add it to
Exactly.
the list of charities. So you go through, you fill out all the information, you give all the information about the charity, the registered charity. I can see how you're kind of making sure these are legitimate charities that we're promoting. So I went through and did all the details in the back end, and it's all done. So if you go to the list of charities and you don't see the specific charity that you want to talk about, then please go through that process on the website as well.
Exactly. You can add anyone. Once again, it could be a very large NGO, it could be a small local charity you care about, either personally or because it's related to your editorial line, the editorial line of your podcast. That's really your choice. We're having this list of charities, probably over 800 so far, because we know that some podcasters don't have any specific contact, or they need help to get in touch with the charities. So it's easier for them to pick up from a list than to look for a specific one. But doesn't mean that's a question that we receive quite frequently. That doesn't mean that you need to choose among this vast array of charities. You can add anyone.
Yeah. And on your website as well, on podcastathon.org, you also have a great list of frequently asked questions. I'm just kind of scrolling through here, and it covers everything. So if you're wondering, well, is this for me? Can I participate? Should I participate? All of the questions are here, and great answers as well. And again, like you mentioned, this isn't a way for us to raise money ourselves. It's not a way for you to raise money. It's for us to throw the spotlight on these amazing charities.
Yeah, there's no money at stake. I mean, it's really about raising awareness. For sure, you can ask for donation to your audience, but we wouldn't collect anything. We, as organizer, that would go directly from your listener to the charity, because you would invite this listener to go to the website of the charity and donate online, for example. So we wouldn't even know that you gave everything, you gave anything, and that's fine. Once again, we focus on awareness. And say if there is a positive effect and second effect like donation, that's great. But we are convinced that it would take time to transform a listener to a donator, and that's normal. That's a normal process. No one just donate like that. I mean, it's quite rare. And so we are on the first step of awareness to convince people to donate if they can, or give their time if they can.
So, Jeremie, we talk to podcasters, and the nice thing about our conversation, we have a global audience for this podcast. So we do have multiple podcasters in New Zealand, which we're talking to right now.
Yeah,
so
please register.
You might get more responses, which is great. But the one thing I would love to kind of highlight is your thoughts around the podcasting world. What excites you about working with podcasters on this initiative? Why do you love podcasting so much?
Well, you wouldn't believe me, but please tell me, please believe me, because I've been working in the digital world for 25 years. And I can tell you, I don't know if you're aware of that, but the podcasters are by far the most interesting people in this large digital ecosystem. I mean, if you could compare with people on Instagram, on YouTube, on any other kind of media, I wouldn't be able to say why exactly I have my idea. I believe that podcasters, for most of them, are doing that by passion. They are not making money out of that. It takes a lot of time to do that also. So passionate people most of the time people with a passion are passionate people. So I'm really pleased to have those conversations, one-on-one conversation with podcasters. We send email and we encourage them to have a conversation with one of us, volunteers. So I would say maybe 10% of them accept it, but it's always a pleasure to discuss even 15 minutes with the podcasters and better understand their motivation and why they are doing that. And most of the time, it's just great. I mean, you could spend not 15 minutes, but 1 hour conversing with those people. I will attend Podfest shortly and had a chance to go to Podcast Movement. So whenever you have an opportunity to meet people, meet those podcasters, that's really a great moment, great conversation. And probably, I shouldn't say that, but probably that the conversation would be less rich with Instagrammers or other influential people somewhere in social networks.
There's a trust that seems to happen between a podcaster and a listener. This built-in trust between
and intimacy.
The two, right?
Intimacy
and the
also.
fact that we show up on a regular basis, we build community, We become known, liked, and trusted as a voice. And some places actually replace some other forms of media completely, because people come to our podcast because they have a relationship with the host.
Exactly.
So when a host gets on and talks about their favorite charity and shines the light from their podcast to a charity of their choice, we get to share that with the audience, which I think is a great idea. That's why I love the idea of what you and your team are doing to support charities and podcasters at the same time. It's amazing.
And well, thank you for that. And I can testify that during previous edition, we could listen to very moving episodes during which some podcasters, and some of them were really famous, were sharing their audience the fact that something happened once in their life, and that's why they decided to highlight this specific charity. So the listeners had an information about why this choice of charity, and most of the time it's really moving because it touches something that happened, and most of the time it's difficult moments either for you or people in your family. So that's also an opportunity for podcasters to open up to their listeners and somehow talk about something slightly different from the usual editorial line, but more personal sometimes also. It's not compulsory once again, but that's an opportunity to do it. And I know for sure that it's really appreciated by the audience.
It's amazing. I love it. Yeah, I'm thrilled, that you have time to chat about this with me on the show, that we can put this in front of more podcasters in this podcast community, because they're always looking for ways to promote their show. I come to your website, I see amazing podcasts listed. I see their cover art. So if you're looking for a way to get your show out there as well, this is a great way to partner as well and get your show shown on the website. It's beautiful. The site's great. And again, the partners that have partnered with you and the sponsors, some amazing people are part of this as well,
True.
putting their backing behind you. I know I heard you on Pod News with James Cridland and Sam Sethi. I heard you there, and I heard them talking about you there. So it's just so great to know that the podcast community is in on this and wants this. I just want more and more podcasters to know about this so that we can do a great job to support you and your team and these charities coming up in March.
Yeah, with your help, maybe we can grow up to 2,000 podcasters. Who knows? And that would be great, because behind each podcaster and each new registrant, there is a new charity that we will discover, and that's why we are doing it. And you were right to emphasize this point. I mean, this is really a community initiative. I mean, maybe we created it, but we don't do anything. I mean, if you think about that, we're just putting a website with covers, and I'm not creating any content. That's you podcasters were doing. We're creating the value of this initiative. So we are really thankful every time a new registrant arrive. And once again, regardless of the audience, regardless of the language, regardless of the theme of the podcast, it's always a new audience that will be brought to the table to this initiative. And yeah, that's also an opportunity for me to thank people like Acast, Pod News, OSHA, many others, because, they are really famous. They don't need us to be more trusted or more known. So, and they don't ask anything in exchange of that. For sure, we're not paying. They are not paying. I mean, they don't expect anything. So they are doing that to promote this medium and to promote charitable causes behind this initiative. So that's really great.
And on your website too, I see links to LinkedIn and Instagram as well, your subscription to your newsletter. Can you tell us what we get through the newsletter as well as we subscribe?
This is more the idea for people that would not be a registrant, but would be connected to the brand, Podcasthon brand, to have information. But also we try to spotlight, promote some great episodes that we could listen to, even though they are not part of the Podcasthon, because they just be released, for example. So anything related to charity or good deeds with podcasting, and try to mix it up, and that would be a monthly email sent, trying to stay in touch with people, and after March that would be even more useful, because that's a yearly event, but in between two events we're trying to stay in touch with as many people as we can.
It's amazing. As we wrap up, Jeremie, if there's anything that I've missed please, can you kind of close us off? And then any encouragement that you have for podcasters around taking their podcast as a platform and using it for good, like your example of helping charities. How can we do that better? How can we do that more and be more aware as podcasters that we have this platform? But if I've missed anything, please, can we help wrap us up here?
Just emphasizing a point, because that's sometimes a question that we have. Don't think you don't have time for that. If you're a podcaster, you will find time because it's really simple. I can assure you. It's not something that would be added to your to-do list, which is already, packed up with a lot of things to do. And I shouldn't say that because no one is doing it to have something back, But I have this testimony of a Canadian podcaster saying that most of the time this is a solitary endeavor to podcast, to be a podcaster. But at least once a year, you have an opportunity to feel like you're part of a community. It's more like a feeling. It's concrete. It's real, because it's very complicated to explain that. You need to experience it. But during this week, if you're part of the podcast, and a lot of other podcasters will, like your podcast and comment and congratulate and say, "Hey, I love your episode, and watch out, mine will be released in 2 days, and you'll see it's nice too." I mean, there's something a bit different than the 51 other week of the year. So I strongly encourage your audience to experience that.
Amazing. Awesome. Jeremie, thank you for all this greatness that you put out in the world, that we can be a part of it and support you and your team. Thank you for the idea and for all the work that happens behind the scenes that we don't see. We come to the website, everything looks beautiful, everything works, but I know there's a lot of great people behind the scenes making this happen. So please share our gratitude and our thanks to your team. And I just want to say I'm excited and proud to be a part of this. And I'm encouraging all the podcasters listening to, if you have any questions, reach out to your team. Your team is amazing. They'll help you with the process. But definitely put this on your calendar. Start planning now. We're recording in January. You can start now, preparing, getting ready, sign up, get your podcast in there, and make all the necessary arrangements to be a part of this, happening in March of 2025. This is amazing. Thank you for being part of this.
I mean, I'm the one that should thank you. So thank you.
It's amazing, everyone. The website, everything you need to know, all in the show notes, as always. And I would love for you to go and follow on Instagram, check out LinkedIn, sign up for the newsletter, do everything. And make sure you get your podcast registered and ready for Podcasthon 2025. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this and how many great charities we can help by sharing our podcast and being a part of a great organization. Again, Jeremie, thank you so much for doing this.
Many thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to the entirety of the episode, including this part. You know what? A lot of people leave right now. So we'll let them leave. Give them a second to go. Okay, now it's just you and me. We have our meetups that we do for the How to Podcast series. We do them during the week, and we also do them on Saturdays. So twice a week, you have the opportunity to meet other podcasters, just like you. Some people have just started. Some people haven't even released an episode yet. Some have been doing it forever. And we get together and talk podcasting. We want to help you in community to continue with your show, to start your show, to grow your show. So come and meet listeners of this show in one space on meetup.com. Again, through howtopodcast.ca, you'll see the links. It's completely free to join. Come whenever you have an opportunity to come. There's no commitment. You don't have to sign any waivers. You can just come join us. Come join the conversation. We'd love to have you there, because the only thing that's going to make these meetups better is you being there. So I'm hoping you will say yes. And you'll say, Dave, I'm tired of podcasting by myself. I wish there were people I could connect with that are fellow podcasters and share my frustrations with guests who ghost me, and my editing software is crapping out on me, and I'm just having this hard time. I'm just having a hard time coming up with podcasts, episodes, and titles, and all the things, and social media. And wouldn't it be great to get in a room with other podcasters and share best practices and learn? 3 of our 4 Saturdays every month are themed. So you have a topic, but that last Saturday of every month, it's open question and answer. Ask anything. Come meet a podcaster. Come enjoy the podcasting community through howtopodcast.ca. Come to our meetups. Can't wait to see you there.